Hey everyone, I was going to talk about the weather for a few minutes, and I haven't done one of these in a while, so good to be back and get talking about the weather again. So just going to take a look at the broader picture, and this is just more less Colorado focused, but more on California. But just look at the broad fetch of southwesterly flow on water vapor imagery. This is what we call an atmospheric river, just bringing copious amounts of moisture from over the Pacific, from the subtropics, and just giving California too much rain at once. If you look at the drought monitor, actually, just the past year, how much has changed. Drought conditions are gone in Northern California, and yeah, just a lot of places have just seen too much rain at once, leading to some flooding concerns, and just not necessarily a good situation down there. I mean, it's good that we've relieved a lot of the drought conditions, especially in Northern California, but too much rain at once is not a good thing also. There's mudslides and obviously some flash flooding issues. All right, just looking at mostly the CONUS picture. This is from College of DuPage. I think they just throw together some really beautiful satellite imagery. Just taking a look at water vapor imagery throughout the country, just to get a picture of what's going on just while it loads. You can see there's this closed low across parts of the southeast, and you can see that southerly fetch of moisture off the eastern part of the Gulf, bringing parts of Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. A few showers and thunderstorms at this hour. And then over Colorado, flow has been zonal, which is really bringing us just some gusty winds and very warm temperatures. In fact, we did break a record today in Denver. We hit 73 degrees today, which breaks the old record of 71 degrees. I think that's set back in, well, it's tied it again in 95, I think. I think it was set at an earlier date. I'm not sure, but this 10-228, 22.8 degrees Celsius, that's 73 degrees Fahrenheit. So another warm day for the books. I believe our average high for this time of year is 48 degrees here in Denver. So yeah, just another just mild, almost late spring-like day. And we'll have one more of those tomorrow. Not quite as warm, but before we start to see some changes Thursday and the Friday, and changes will actually come at us pretty hard. Current temperatures east of the Front Range still in the 50s, even 60 degrees in Boulder, 61 degrees in Boulder, that is, but 57 degrees still at DIA, and just mild. Starting to see that drainage flow again off the Palmer Divide, which we usually see the elevated cooling source, and still westerly winds at Fort Collins and Loveland Airport, still 58 degrees, so definitely downsloping there. But yeah, just another mild night in store. Probably won't get below 40 degrees tonight, which is kind of insane in February, since we should be in the low 20s, I believe, for our average low. So yeah, another mild night in store before we start to see some cooler weather on our way. There are those showers and maybe in a few thunderstorms over parts of the southeast that I talked about just a minute ago, and a few rain showers across parts of California. They really don't want any more rain up there, just causing some flooding concerns. And yeah, it just looks like some showers, it looks like, over Wyoming. So yeah, I just want to talk about our sounding in Denver. This is just ridiculous. So 5 p.m. Local time, Mountain Standard Time, 67 degrees at the time of our sounding. And see, there's actually a tiny little sliver of Cape, just around 500 millibars, but nothing too that. It's using virtual temperature, which is always higher or equal to than the actual temperature. So I don't know if that's actually fully represented. But anyways, thing here is just, yeah, very dry low levels. So it was bone dry today. Relative humidity was just hovering around 10%. So you needed the water. Also, this is this line here is what we call a mixed layer. So it's parallel to the dry adiabats. So you know, heat the ground up a lot. You get the rising thermals, and you just get a very well mixed boundary layer. All the molecules get all excited because the ground's being heated up all day, as we saw today, and we were warm today, 73 degrees in February. So another warm day for the books, a record-breaking day. I believe that's the fourth record high we've broken in Denver so far this year. Or no, not this year, this month. I don't know if we broke any in January, but fourth record high we've broken this month. So yeah, February's been a warm and very dry month here for Denver, and we could certainly use some moisture. I'd like to see some snow, but moisture, I'll take it. This is just the current upper air pattern. As I talked about, you can see that west-southwesterly flow bringing a lot of rain into California, and there's that closed low that I talked about over the east, southeast. This is just looking at 300 millibars from the SPC mesoscale analysis, or the RAT model. And yeah, just one more dry day for us under that zonal flow before we start to see a trough dig in from the northwest and kind of scoop by to our north. Unfortunately, at this time, and I'll talk about this in just a second, it doesn't look to bring us too much moisture here in Denver. Mostly friends up in Wyoming, and later actually across parts of Minnesota and Iowa, they'll probably get a good amount of snow. So anyways, let's talk more specifically about what we're going to see. So tomorrow, yeah, one more mild day. Probably see temperatures maybe in the mid to upper 60s in Denver. Mountain wave is probably going to be in action, especially with that strong zonal flow. Just looking at 700 millibars here. Yeah, we got, let's see. Yeah, tomorrow morning, this is 15Z Wednesday, so that's, let's see, 10 o'clock, no, 8 o'clock. Geez, 8 o'clock in the morning tomorrow for Denver Mountain Standard Time. Yeah, 50 knot flows straight out of the west at 700 millibars. That's roughly mountaintop. So yeah, we get that mountaintop stable layer, and you get the strong flow that's perpendicular to the mountains, reflecting off that stable layer, and we see that mountain wave. So that can actually limit temperatures close by to the foothills, but the downsloping and the adiabatic warming and compression, while it makes for breezy conditions, it also keeps us very mild and just unseasonably warm for this time of year. So unseasonably warm for this time of year. That's redundant, but unseasonably warm. So yeah, that will definitely be the story tomorrow. One more mild day, well above average. And Thursday we start to see some changes. Thursday might be one of those days where we actually see our high temperatures in the morning, depending on the timing of the cold front. This is just the 12Z GFS. And as you can see here, winds shift kind of northwesterly. Yeah, late afternoon, early evening across parts of Denver. But notice how they're out of the west or northwest initially, so downsloping will probably be an issue, and that will keep us dry again, at least for the early part of when this next wave approaches our area. But I'm just going to pull up a couple of soundings, forecast soundings from the 12Z GFS, 18Z GFS, sorry. And yeah, this is, let's see, this is 0Z on the 24th, so this is Thursday evening. So roughly the timing of the cold front. As you can see, very dry low levels at the surface. There's a 34-degree dew-point depression, so we're gonna have to moisten the low levels, moisten the surface if we really want to see any precipitation, and that's probably just a reflection of this deep northwesterly flow indicating downsloping. This is at Centennial Airport, so actually quite a distance away from the foothills, but can still be influenced by downsloping off the Front Range, and especially the Palmer Divide. That east to west to east topographic feature. It's essentially a big ridge just south of Denver between Colorado Springs and Denver. But as you look, we fast forward a few hours, see we slowly start to moisten the surface, and winds generally start to veer with time, or turn clockwise with time, and shift to more of a northerly direction. So northerly is upslope for the Palmer Divide, so that is it's what we'd want to see for snow here along the Palmer Divide. But then again, I mean, the surface is still fairly dry, so we'll still need to moisten quite a bit of the surface. And then as you can see, by 6Z or 11 p.m. Thursday night, we start to moisten the surface, and still some northerly flow. But yeah, this will probably be a case where we start to see snow along the Palmer Divide first. Denver, even Boulder, I'm not really sure how much they're going to see. However, they will be closer to the jet and the wave, essentially. So any areas further north, they'll have that going for them. But yeah, as I just fast forward, you can see we just kind of stay moist at the surface, still that northerly upslope, and then eventually we start to see some northeasterly upslope, which would tend to favor Denver more, and the Palmer Divide as well. This is looking at 5 a.m. Friday morning. But this is just a forecast sounding, so just to give you kind of an idea, I think we're going to have to fight off some downsloping initially, and then eventually as we moisten the surface and start to see more of an upslope flow and upslope component, that's when our snow chances will increase in Denver. And this is just at 700 millibars, kind of just a similar thing. I talked about the zonal flow yesterday, but let's see. Yeah, still northwesterly at 700 millibars. So this upslope is going to be very shallow, which typically isn't too good of a thing if we want to see large snowfall accumulations here in Denver and along the Palmer Divide. But we'll have to see how this plays out. Again, I'm not terribly excited. Maybe a, I don't know, 1 to 2 inch event, but that's just kind of a rough estimate at this point. I think further north in Wyoming, they will see quite a bit more. Just kind of a neat note, what I want to talk about. This is just a classic example of what we call Lie cyclogenesis. So cyclogenesis is just the strengthening or intensification of a mid-latitude cyclone. So what happens is you get a cyclone that forms over the mountains, and then as it moves on out onto the high plains, the air column is stretched. So that's what we call conservation of potential vorticity. So in that equation, assuming our surfaces are bounded by two surfaces of constant potential temperature, so there's an absolute vorticity component of the equation and a d theta dp, or change in potential temperature with respect to height, and we're using pressure as a vertical coordinate rather than height. So as that d theta dp decreases, there's a less change in potential temperature with respect to height as you move over the plains, because we're bounded by two surfaces of constant potential temperature. And so in order to conserve potential vorticity, your vorticity is going to have to increase in order to make up for that decrease in d theta dp. Anyways, that's a nerdy note, but that's kind of physically why it happens. So you can see there's our mid-latitude cyclone over southern Wyoming, and you can see it just really blows up as it moves over the central plains and northern plains into Nebraska and parts of Minnesota and the Dakotas. And it's going to bring them quite a bit of snow, especially after the mild weather they've been seeing. So that'll be a shock for them. I think they were up in the 50s today, and Minneapolis and even Chicago, I think, broke 60 degrees. So I have to double check on that. But yeah, just finally winter's, I guess, making a comeback. And yeah, here in Denver, highs really might not make it out of the 40s on Thursday, and Friday probably even colder, probably won't make it out of the 30s. So a refreshing change, maybe not welcome by many, but I kind of want the cold weather. It's February, and we are transitioning slowly into the warm season, even though March is our snowiest month. So anyways, just looking at the mid-level pattern, this is 500 millibar deep potential heights and anomalies. This is actually from the 18Z GFS, sorry, 12Z GFS. I always get my model runs confused. As you can see, yeah, wave kind of scoots by to the north, doesn't really dig far enough south, which isn't really the ideal setup for us here in Denver, but then it lifts off and wreaks havoc in the Dakotas and Minnesota. And you can see just the pattern. Ridge will flow will kind of flatten out towards the weekend, so that'll probably warm us up a little bit. Flows zonal, so downsloping for us. But yeah, pattern into early March next week also just looks fairly cool and active. So yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that. Maybe some ridging building back in to the first part of the month, and then it looks like we get another wave. And then it looks like we see a really high amplitude ridge establish itself across parts of the west, which usually means warmer temperatures and dry conditions. So more on that later. Yeah, have a good rest of your week, and I'll hopefully do one of these next week.